watch
How?
this?
How?
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 Ew,
How do you watch this?
Dude, I'm gonna pee my pants.
Hi, you're listening to How Do You Watch This, a movie review podcast where each week we recommend a movie in a genre we love, but they don't. My name is Demi, and I love horror.
My name is Megan, and I love romance.
And this week I had Megan watch the movie Pet Sematary, the original OG 1989 version. And yeah, it's been a while since I've rewatched this.
Yeah, how was your feelings watching it as an adult, Demi?
I'll be honest, I've watched this one a lot. This
Mhm.
is one movie I've seen a lot.
With you and Stephen King.
I don't know.
It's
We
weird.
have this. I think Stephen King was just like an easy movie to rent from
Yeah.
Blockbuster. It was like when you think of horror, it was like, oh, Stephen King movie.
Yeah.
My mom knew Stephen King, so it was just very
Mhm.
a big deal in my household. But
Yeah.
this movie, for some reason, was one that stuck with me, and it's for two reasons. One, because it scared the shit out of me.
Yeah, of course it did.
There were two specific characters in this movie that
Yep.
really stuck to me.
Okay, I think I
And
know what the one is probably gonna be the one that like genuinely freaked me out.
yeah, I think the one's gonna do. I know which one. The other one you can probably figure out, but maybe not.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we'll talk about it. But and two, I did like the story, and I still do like the story. And I ended up reading the book, and I think the book is really good. But I think this story is one of those that it's just better as a book. Like we can talk more about it,
We
but
will. Oh, the movie, like you said, is 89. It is 1 hour and 43 minutes, which doesn't sound like a long time, but this
it
movie
feels longer
felt
than that.
long.
Yeah,
I get like
definitely.
how many more minutes is I think it's
Yes.
just like I don't know if it's because so many things happen where you're just like it has to be
Probably.
near the end.
Yeah, it's like, this is the end, right?
Right.
Oh, no, there's
No,
something else going on.
kept going,
Okay.
kept going. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, it did not feel that short at all.
No. Drama horror, I would say. Maybe tragedy horror. Directed by a woman, which I was very surprised by. I was very surprised that a woman directed this. Mary Lambert. You go, girl. I don't condone what I saw, but good for you.
George Romero was supposed to direct it, but he dropped after delays, so then she jumped in.
Yeah, I mean, we love woman representation, female representation,
too.
but this is not what I would have expected.
Hey,
No, I know you guys are
we
twisted.
want women in
Yeah, yeah.
horror. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, it's just like it's like all the things I hate. So our story centers around the Creeds, a family that recently moved into a rural town in Maine. They consist of the doctor dad Lewis, stay-at-home mom Rachel, 5-year-old Ellen, aka Ellie, and 2-year-old Gage, which is a very interesting name. Or I feel like I don't really hear that name.
Gage?
Gage? Yeah, do you hear it?
Yeah. I've thought it was not like super common, but I've definitely heard it before. Really?
Never heard the name Gage.
I guess it's
Yeah.
like the name Brett. Before I met Brett, I was like, wait,
Yeah.
I've never heard that name in my
Yeah.
life. He's like, that's
Yeah.
a very common, horrible name.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, all right.
Across the street from their houses lives the neighbor, Judd Crandall, a man with an incredibly strange accent and the habit of keeping his mouth open and bottom teeth out like a horse.
He is a very strange.
It's on his name, and he played the a Frankenstein creature.
That's right.
And he like Munster from
Yep. Yes.
whatever. Yeah, so he played, and yeah, it suits his face. He's got a very long face. And when he was younger, he wasn't like an unattractive person, but literally all I could see were his bottom teeth. And
Yeah.
it was a lot. Like they were always out.
I mean, he looked like a rural
Yes.
townie.
Yes. And
Not to be mean, but
no, he did. And I'm very curious what the protocol was with accents here because it was giving Mary Poppins with Dick Van Dyke's
yes, yeah.
attempt at a Cockney accent. Like, what is coming out of your mouth?
Yeah. They're just like, I don't know, be a quirky Just a quirky old man.
And they're in Maine, but it feels very southern vibes. So the street they are on is a busy one, not with cars, but with massive Mack trucks. They speed through without a care in the world for the apparent plethora of animals that have been killed on this route. These pets are famously buried in a small pet cemetery, misspelled because obviously a child wrote it. Down past the Creed's home, a place so dilapidated and spooky that you can pay me to lay my loved ones to rest there. I was like, absolutely not. See a purpose in you might first of all, okay, I listened to a podcast recently, and that podcast talked about how pet cemeteries started, and basically in New York City they weren't allowed to bury their pets because there wasn't enough space, and so they created pet cemeteries for them to lay their animal to rest and have a place to go and like visit, so they didn't have to literally throw their animal out with the trash, which is horrible. So, sensical, makes sense. Things that don't make sense. You live in the middle of nowhere, you have acres of property, and you're gonna go to this sketchy cemetery where they literally, it is like chair legs used to make the crosses. They couldn't even get.
I mean, these are like poor kids probably just trying to do something and put something together for their pets. So I wouldn't shame
Do it in your
how it
backyard,
looks.
bro. Yeah, I will.
These it's kids, young kids that are
So
burying
it
their
was so
animals. So,
creepy.
but it is creepy, and it doesn't help that there's like howling and
Yeah.
creepy noises and that kind of like the branch bush thing
Yeah.
that's eerily
Yeah.
sitting there.
Yeah, the barrier, so to speak.
Yes.
At this point, Travis walked into the room and asked what the movie was about. So I explained to him the snapshot you gave me that a family moves into town, their cat dies, they bury it, and it comes back to life. And he was like, "Oh, is it a comedy?" No,
I mean, some
no.
of the dialogue's comedic. It's pretty bad,
Yeah, guess
you
so.
know?
Fortunately, the aforementioned cat is adorable as hell and keeps cuddling with Ellie. And
Yeah.
I kept hoping that I misheard you and it wasn't gonna die because I wrote down, "Dude, if this cat dies," and then my next line was, "I know the cat dies, but don't die,
I
please."
know. Church, so cute.
Ugh.
He's like a short hair, a blue short hair.
Yeah, yeah, which is like the same exact cat that my sister has. So yeah, it was it was a little too close to home. My niece cat.
Yeah, your niece cat.
So that day at work, or a day at work, I guess, because time is passing pretty rapidly. We're not getting a sense of what's going on. One day at work, Lewis operates on a man who was hit by a truck and dies on the table. The man then comes back to life and says, "The soil of a man's heart is stonier, Lewis." And then he says, "I'll come to you." And then he dies again. Nightmare fuel. I would definitely be thinking that, like, I was having a schizophrenic break or something like that. That would freak me out.
Yeah, I don't think Lewis, like, really thought on that too much.
Mm-mm.
That would have really triggered me for a bit. Not only
Yeah.
witnessing, because he looked gross. The guy's, like, half his head was, his brain was kinda coming out, and that happens, I'd be like, "Well, alright, well,
Yeah.
what a
Yeah.
great welcome to Maine.
It was rough.
Gonna
Not to
love my
men
life here."
yeah. Not to mention there's blood all over Lewis's face at this point. And
Mhm.
I was just like, we are like peak AIDS crisis. You would think alarm bells would be ringing and you would immediately be trying to cleanse yourself. But
Yeah, because he's a doctor at, like, a university. Like, he's
yeah.
like a it's not like a hospital clinic. It's like a weird I don't know,
Yeah.
like, I
It's
don't
it's like a
know.
school because
Universities have,
yeah.
like, this type
I
of thing? I
guess.
don't
It would maybe a teaching hospital. A teaching
Yeah.
hospital. I don't know. So Lewis dreams about the dead man named Pascal, where he is warned away from leaving the boundaries of the cemetery to the place where the soil has gone rotten. Or whatever.
No.
So when he wakes up, he realizes that there's actually dirt on his feet. So he clearly must have sleptwalked or gone at some point to the cemetery. But
Mhm.
he just kind of like brushes it off, nothing, which again, another creepy thing with this guy, like, "Hey, honey,
Yeah.
I'm sleepwalking. Apparently, there's mud all over my feet. Weird things are going on about this traumatic incident that happened."
Yeah, if a person who recently died told me they were gonna come to me,
Mhm.
and then I saw them again at that night, I
Yep.
would be reaching out to, I don't know, a psychic or a ghost
Yeah.
person and be like, "Hey, this is creepy." So, a funny fact about this
Yeah.
shot. So, this scene was done twice. One where Lewis was originally wearing just jockey shorts, so he was topless with just the shorts, and the filmmakers thought it was too sexy and too distracting, and I was like, "Where? Let me be the judge of that.
Yes,
Let
excuse
me.
me,
Where's the
'cause
footage? Let me
he
see."
was he was fine.
He
Like, he was
was.
really fine, and I was like,
Yes, he
"Hello."
is. He is cute, and when I read that, I was like, "Oh my god."
Didn't give that to us is
I
rude.
know.
Like,
I
she's a
know.
woman.
Yeah, give us what we want. Come
I
on,
like,
not a girl's girl.
mm-mm, mm-mm.
Disappointing to hear,
Yeah, I'm
but
really
it's
bummed out
fine, I
about that.
guess.
That's I
I
would
know.
have liked to see that. I would have liked one good thing to come out of this movie. You know what I mean?
Get a half a point for that. Just
Right.
that scene
I
alone.
know. Yeah, it definitely would have helped the score, I'll tell you.
It's it's fine. We can use our
Whatever.
imagination, I guess.
I'll have to. So he also at work that day throws away the file on Pascal, which is definitely not ethical. You
No. It's like, well, he's dead
uh,
in the trash.
nothing about him matters anymore, bro.
There's so many things in this movie that just like crack me up, and I'm like, oh
God,
god, it just feels it's so cheesy.
so cheesy. So, so when the kids and Rachel are away at Thanksgiving, and Lewis stays home, whatever. The cat Church gets hit by a truck and needs to be literally peeled off of Judd's front lawn.
Yeah,
Everything that's happening in this movie, I'm like, that's gonna be the deleted scene. That's gonna be the deleted scene. That's by the time I got to the end, I was like, how am I gonna pick one?
it's like at least half the movie.
It
Delete.
I almost was like the whole movie.
I mean, that's fair if you wanted to say that. I said
No,
that for
I
Barefoot, so
did you?
yeah.
Well, see, I like to follow the rules, Demi.
Okay,
So,
fine.
yeah, so the cat gets hit by the truck. It needs to be literally peeled off the lawn. It was graphic. It was sad. A real bummer. Really,
Yeah.
really horrible. So Judd takes Lewis to an ancient burial ground. Well, sorry, excuse me, not just an ancient burial ground, an ancient Indian burial ground. His words, not mine, where they bury the cat. First of all, he had these dreams, he had these nightmares where it's saying like, "Don't go beyond, don't go beyond, don't go beyond." They literally crossed this barrier. But you know what? Fine. You're writing it off as a dream. The local old man across the street is telling you, "I know where to bury it." Takes you there
Mhm.
and says, "You gotta bury him here." Fine. All right, fine. I can understand the sequence of events up to this
And
point.
they became friends, so
Yeah,
why wouldn't you trust,
exactly.
you know, this old man?
Understand him doing this. It's not strange to me. Although I do think at, in the year of our Lord 2025, if someone said it's an ancient Native American burial ground, I would say,
Uno
goodbye.
reverse.
Yeah, we're gonna walk away. Pay our respects. Thank you so much. Sorry about everything. I'm gonna go bury my dead somewhere where that isn't.
And it just feels eerie, right? So you go to this pet cemetery, you have to climb this barrier. It's dangerous. You get to the
Mhm.
top, you cross. In the book, they don't explain it, but they show it in the remake. There's like a swampy area you cross. You cross this mossy area and you get to this stone burial site that is very unique looking. I would have been like, listen, this is too much for me. I'm
Yeah.
creeped out. I don't want to be here. And it's
Yeah.
at night too. And Judd was like, you have to bury your own.
Yes. What? What do you mean?
Judd, we're heading back.
Yeah.
I'm
Judd
scared.
Judd just sits there the whole time, smoking like he's a chimney, absolute cigarette after cigarette after cigarette. I was like, dude.
My God. Yeah, it would have been. It's just red flag after red flag. And listen, like, I don't blame him for following through with this. It's just like, all right, I guess if Judd says it is, it's fine. But, a few red flags. And
Yeah. Quite a few. Quite a few. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt because it's 89 and they must not know
yeah,
about
there's just,
respect.
yeah, you would think a ghost warning you would be enough, but
But again, if you're a skeptic,
yeah.
fine. So not me though. Not me though. If it was me,
Nope.
Are you kidding me? I can't, I'm sorry, I can't cross that barrier. I had a dream about it.
Yeah, it's fine. I'll bury Church
Yeah.
right here out
Yeah.
front.
Yeah, he can go with the other cats playing kitty heaven together, you know? But he doesn't get to play in kitty heaven because he comes back from the dead and now he's mean. So we learned that Judd was able to save his dog Spot this way, but the dog didn't come back the same. And in his memory, the dog is literally angrily barking at him. Why would you
Yeah,
be like, oh, you should bring back your cat and have a mean cat now?
I don't know. I guess he felt bad for Ellie because
Yeah.
Ellie loves this cat, but it's like, dude, if you remember your dog being a little violent, like, why would you want
Yeah, that around
this?
a little girl.
Yeah, a little girl to be around that. And it's funny because Church comes back mean, and I'm just like, that's just Hulk. It's just my cat, you
Dude, when
know?
he is, that's like him being mean. It was literally just Hulk like swiping, and I was like, yeah, I mean, is that really that bad?
Just like knocking stuff over. It's like,
Yeah.
all right, whatever. He's a normal cat now.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
cool.
He went from being like this sweet, cuddly little guy to being a cat. So, yeah.
But he does have these like creepy glowing eyes, which was done with camera.
Ooh,
So because cats have
those
a retina that
reflective.
reflects
Yeah.
light, they just put like a little light right above the lens. So when they were shooting on the cat, it would just reflect and you get that cool, creepy glow.
That's really
So
neat.
that's really cool.
Yeah. Also, we get introduced to who I assume is the maid, Missy. She also has a weird accent. So, I'm thinking that's part of the town.
I guess, maybe Maine is just full of people with accents.
I've never been to Maine, but
Yeah. Stephen King lived there and he was living there during the making of this movie, which he was like on set a lot for.
okay.
And he requested that this movie had to be in Maine because it was also based in Maine. So I don't know. Maybe it is like that.
I get he's just like, yeah, that's how they talk up here. Good job.
I know exactly
Mhm,
the
mhm.
accents up
Uh-huh.
here.
So, regardless, Missy's only role in this movie is to commit suicide because of her stomach cancer.
Yeah, Missy was an interesting character because she's not in the remake and I don't remember her much in the book, but I think she is in the book, but she doesn't commit suicide. I think the only reason they added her was to trigger the mom's
Yeah. Yeah, to trigger
trauma.
what ends up happening, which is that Rachel remembers her sister, who I think had spina bifida, and Rachel like hated her because she had to take care of her, and she just was waiting for her to die, and she had to watch her die. And this, I believe, is the character that scared you
Mhm.
because they did not do poor victims of spina bifida any justice. This was a terrifying creature that looked like a skeleton with paper pulled over its face. It did not look human.
Yes. So, this is the sister Zelda,
Oh
and Zelda in the book is supposed to be 13 years old.
my
And I
god,
guess they're
that was not a 13-year-old.
no. I guess they're always she was always supposed to be 13. But the director when they were trying to cast were like these little girls are like too cute. It's not good enough. So they casted a man,
Yeah,
a
I'm
full-grown
not
man.
surprised. I'm not surprised. I was looking at it and I was like, I feel like this is that situation where they put a man in a dress. Yeah.
Yes, that's exactly it because they wanted it to be scarier. And I do think that they pushed it because of imagine that Rachel imagines it being a lot worse and scarier than it
Makes
actually
sense.
was. And I do think that Zelda was, she was not looking great, but I also think she had a lot of mental issues
Yes. Well,
for being locked away in a room.
she was being locked away in the back room like a dirty
It's
secret.
Yeah, it was very fair, but that enhances the scariness of this poor little girl having to go feed her and bring her food and
Yeah.
it's just a shell of her sisters.
Yeah. Horrible.
Horrifying situation. Yes, but
Messed up. But they keep doing this throughout the movie. They're like zooming in on these trucks going super fast, and then they switch to the kids playing, and then they go back to the trucks. And you're like, oh, I feel uncomfortable. Like I felt a level of dread throughout the
yeah.
movie. This isn't gonna end with a freaking cat. This is Stephen King. And I was hoping he wasn't gonna do it, but he did. So essentially, the family's having a lovely picnic. they're flying a kite, and Gage wants to fly the kite. So Lewis and Gage are flying it, and then Ellie's jealous and she says something funny, and the dad looks over at her, and the kite kind of starts flopping away, and the baby starts chasing after it. And then Judd is like, get the baby. And he turns around. Lewis turns around, starts running after the kid. The kid's running into the road. He trips and falls. Lewis, not the baby. He trips. So he's not able to catch the kid in time. And then we see his bloody shoe flying in the air because he's hit by a truck.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah. I think if I had to pick a scene, it's probably my deleted scene.
That
It's
was
just
my
such
deleted
a
scene. Yeah.
awful.
It was atrocious. I hated it. That's why I wrote if I have to pick one, because there's so many bad things that happen. The cat,
Yeah.
the Missy's suicide, the mom, Rachel's sister Zelda,
Yeah.
and then this happening with Gage. I was like, God, you're joking. So it's really awful. I can't imagine. I kept thinking to myself, like, I can't imagine coming back from this like as a couple, just like how your marriage can survive.
Yeah, and I feel like they were just really dumb the whole movie because when they first arrived at the house, the same thing almost
Yes.
happens.
Yep.
The mom looks away because Ellie falls and hurts herself, so
Yeah.
they're both tending to her. The baby's just on the driveway and starts walking towards the road, and if Judd wasn't there to grab the baby, he would have been hit there. So it's like, what are you guys doing out here? Like, what?
Exactly.
Hello, it's a baby.
You should know better at this point in time. Put a leash on your kid if that's what it takes. Like, I'm not condoning leashing children, but at the same time, if you can't keep your eye on them at all times and there's a very busy road and you can't trust that your kid's not, do something.
Y'all couldn't all that land and the best place for a
Fence
picnic
it
was like,
up
I
against
don't
the
know.
road.
Yeah. It's like,
Like,
hello? Lots of stupidness. I
there's a
mean,
lot of
it's
stupidness.
unfortunate, but
Yeah. And I don't even want to play like the blame game because I think it's sad. It's a super sad thing. Accidents do happen in life, and this isn't the there are people out there who have these tragic, tragic accidents happen because they were being thoughtless for 30 seconds. And it's so easy for us to do something thoughtless and just, nothing bad happens because of it. So it's
Mhm.
fine. We narrowly escape something bad happening. So we learn from the lesson and move on. And they didn't learn from their lesson. And this happens. So I don't want to be, shaming him too much. But I also feel like if it was me and my husband did that, it would be really hard for me to get over it. And the reason I say that is because she ends up going away with her family. But I think they decide they can't live in that house anymore. It's too emotional. Obviously, there's a lot of devastation happening. So the mom and Ellie go to stay with her parents. And while they're there, Lewis is alone and Judd confronts Lewis. He's like, I know you're thinking about burying your son there. Do not, like the burial grounds, do not do that. Back after World War II, a local boy was sent back. He had died in the war. His father buried him there, and he came back twisted. Me and my friends, this is Judd saying this, me and my friends had to go burn down his house with him and the father in it to rectify the situation.
Which is like weird because that's not what happens exactly in the book. And I was like, why do they do that?
What happened in the book?
So in the book, it's so the in the movie, the zombified guy feels more like a zombie. Like he's just like living hurts.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
he's just kind of like out like weird. In the book, he's like creepier. Like he knows things about people. And so in the book, when the friends confront him, he knows things about them, like secrets, dirty secrets, and it's being like real creepy. And then the father of the son ended up locking him in the house, shooting him and himself in and lit the house on fire before shooting himself. So the father did all that, not Judd and his buddies. If anyone's interested in a really bad adaptation of that, there's a prequel called Bloodlines. Not good because I didn't remember that was a thing that existed until I watched this movie. I was like looking it up and I was like, oh yeah, that was really bad.
No, yeah,
It's just-
okay.
don't bother. But it does cover Judd when he was younger dealing with that zombie
Yeah.
guy.
Okay.
But yeah, in the movie, it was just like, we gotta kill him. We gotta kill him.
Weird.
And then the
Yeah.
dad was like, "No," and the zombie guy was, like, holding his dad in there and
Right.
was like,
They were literally like, there were 3 men. You're telling me 3 men couldn't fight against this zombie dude? So
yeah.
they were like, "Okay, zombie dad, get out if you wanna get out." And the guy's trying to get out and he can't. They burn the house down.
It was, like, such a
What?
horrible like, what happened here?
Yeah, it was nuts. I didn't like that at all. Aside from that, by the way, Ellie seems to be having prophetic dreams because Pascal is visiting her as well. So that's the guy who died in the beginning hit by the truck, was visiting Lewis and like, don't bury anything up there.
Mhm.
He's been visiting her. He's trying to warn the family about what's going to happen. Rachel is super spooked and decides to go back to Maine to see what's going on. And no matter what's happening, Pascal's warnings, Judd's warnings, whatever, they cannot go against the guilt and the devastation that the father is having over the loss of his son. He does dig up his kid. He does bring him over and bury him at the burial ground. And then he leaves him alone and goes to bed, which, if it was me, I would have stayed by the burial site all night to wait for my toddler to
Yeah, the climb.
climb out of the grave. But whatever. Because of that, the toddler goes home. He crawls out of the grave. He crawls into his dad's room. He's obviously not fully human because he knows what to do. He reaches into the med bag, grabs a scalpel, goes over to Judd's house, wants to play hide and seek. His cute little baby voice is
Mhm.
talking, and you're like, "Oh, it's a baby." But no, it's a demon child. And he slits Judd's Achilles and then eats Judd's neck, just eats him up like a vampire.
Yeah. Gage was the other character that probably more than
Of
Zelda.
course it was. Of
I was so
course it
scared. I was
was.
so scared of this baby, dude.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I honestly was not that scared of it, as scared
Yeah.
of the baby, but that's because I'm
An adult. Yeah,
yeah.
watching it
I
now, I'm
think if
like,
you were a
it's
kid watching it, it's super sketch, but as an adult,
yeah, it's kinda like, Chucky, you're scared of
yeah,
that, but as an adult, I'm like, "Ah, it's kinda cheesy." Like, the concept is terrifying. That's why I say the book is probably a better read, because when you read about a toddler murdering and talking like an adult, that's scary, but when you
yeah,
watch it, it's not
yeah.
as scary because 'cause you're like, "Well, I could probably kick that thing away."
Yeah,
Not too
yeah,
bad, but
exactly.
he is
Yeah.
sneaky, so
He is. He's a wily thing. Rachel is home at this point. I'm pretty sure she hitched a ride with the same dude who killed her kid, but I could be wrong. I don't
don't think
know.
so.
Okay, you don't. All right. Okay, so Rachel gets home. She has some sort of intuition and goes to Judd's house, goes up the stairs, sees Gage, is like, oh my God, it's Gage. And she's being cute and she has the blade. But also, if a kid's holding a blade, a 2-year-old holding a blade, my instinct is not that kid's going to kill me with the blade. It's going to be, I mean, I would take it out of their hand right away, but whatever. She doesn't do that. She holds him and I wonder what happens. We hear her scream and then lo and behold, what happened was he apparently hung her from the rafters
He has some
somehow.
strength, crazy strength.
Yeah, insane. Over in his side, Lewis wakes up. Pretty sure he heard screaming or something. He goes over to Judd's. He's looking all over. Before he entered the house, he killed the poor cat, Church, which was a really sad scene. He killed Church, hated that. Then he goes in, he sees Judd's body, then he sees Rachel's body, and then it's the little boy. He knows he has to kill it. Really horrible. He kills his kid. That was my most memorable scene was him having to stab his child in the neck with some sort of death juice.
Death juice.
And it was really sad. And the kid was like, no fair. And
Yeah.
then slumps against the wall and dies. He takes Rachel out of the house, Lewis, burns the house to the ground, then decides, well, the problem with Gage was that I took too long to bury him. So I'm going to bury Rachel right away because she just died. So he goes up, he buries Rachel, blah, blah, blah. He goes back home. Then she shows up at the house and she's foul. She's foul. She's oozing from the mouth. Disgusting. Again, another scene that should be deleted. They make out. Disgusting.
I
So
hate it.
Gross. He must be devastated by grief because that is the
Yeah.
most
I think
foul thing.
after killing Gage a second time and everyone dead, I think he broke. Like, there's no way he was mentally stable or normal. So, yeah, why not make out with your dead wife? Fuck it, who cares anymore?
Yeah. And then she grabs a knife and the screen goes black and we hear him scream. So he's probably dead.
Yep. Poor Ellie.
Poor Ellie.
No one gave a fuck about Ellie.
No. No. It was awful.
Then it ends with a song by the Ramones called Pet Sematary, which they made for the movie because Stephen King is a big fan of the band. So there you go.
Of course. I'm
Gosh.
I don't know. I don't know, dude. That was
It's a lot. This movie's a lot. I have a hard time rating it personally because of a few reasons, and we can talk about
yeah,
that. But I do
we'll
have a lot of facts, so I can do that
yeah,
or
do that.
okay.
Do that and then I'll run through my next ones. I
Okay.
mean, it's not really listen, I'll just really quick smash or pass, right? Let me just smash or pass it real quick because we know it's smash the main character because
Robbie,
up until the end when he loses his mind,
hey,
he's
if
a you
he's
know,
willing to bury his dead wife and make out with her.
I
So
mean,
that's
yeah,
love.
he's a simp.
I like
So
that.
yeah. Yeah, I did. The only ick he had was when he got really mad at her because she wanted him to make a promise to Ellie and he didn't want to make a promise. And then he got really sassy with her, but they made up. It was fine.
Yeah, I mean, I understand why he didn't want to be make a promise, but he's very I don't know. Their views on death are
Logical.
very
Yeah.
different, and I think he could have considered his wife's reasoning more because of what she's went through. But
Yeah, I agree. But anyway, other than that, he was really cute. At the beginning, he's like playing with his son, and I was like, oh, look at them. He's so
yeah,
hot. And so,
I
so
need the
yes.
director's cut of him in the
Oh,
jockey
dude.
shorts
We should
ASAP.
see if it's on YouTube somewhere. Right. Like it's got to exist.
I think so. The movie was originally longer, but a lot was cut out. Paramount wanted a lot cut.
Mhm.
And the director said those scenes don't exist anymore. Like they must have been deleted.
Oh,
Boo, boo.
lame. All right. Villain, obviously pass?
There's no,
Like
yeah,
what? That's I can't NA. I think that has to be the new option. Not available,
yeah,
accessible at
fair.
all. Yeah. I'll go over my survival recommended hearts when we're
Okay.
ready.
All right. Um, so this book, so it's based off obviously Stephen King's book written in 1983. And this was
But
his
can I
yeah,
just interrupt you really quick? Because
yes.
God forbid. Demi also said at the beginning of the episode we have to stop interrupting each other, or not interrupting, talking over each other so much. So he has written so much. I went on his website to look at, oh, what are the Stephen King? It was just scrolling. I scrolled like 5 times. It was still in the A's.
He has written so many books. I don't know how he does it. Like
No,
it is just a constant stream, I guess. I'm like, are they I mean, some of them I think are still good. I like I said, I'm really not a huge fan of his writing, but like I mean, he's still popular enough to get people buying his books all the time, and it's crazy. I'm like, how do you have this much like creativity and time to write all these books?
honestly, what's it like in his brain, dude? That's if he has that much scary shit like roaming around up there, like
Yeah, girl. Anyway, so this book, he supposedly this is the only novel. I don't know when he said this a bit ago, so maybe he has a new novel now that really scared him. This is a book that he wrote, which I feel like is pretty realistic because there's a lot of creepy themes in it. If you kill a child and bring them back,
yeah,
that's
it's
pretty scary.
super creepy.
Don't like that.
No, I don't like it at all. And also, that's so strange. It's so interesting to be scared by your own writing.
Right. It's just like, damn, this is spooky. So he got the idea because he lives in Maine, so there's a lot of inspiration, but his daughter's cat ended up dying by getting hit by a car. And so he all the grief that Ellie went through, like he pulled from his daughter going through that grief of losing their cat. So he had the idea stemmed from that accident. But so the original screenplay featured the Wendigo.
Okay.
which, if no one knows what a Wendigo is, it's a mythological cannibalistic monster that stems from like Native American tribes. It's usually like this beast with like a deer antler head or like a spirit that possesses humans, causing them to crave human flesh. So in the book, the Wendigo is brought up, and it's not really brought up in the movie at all, except there's like a scene where there's a creepy howl, and Judd's like, "Oh, it's just a loon." That's supposed to actually be like the Wendigo kind of hanging around that area.
It's fun. I like
So
that.
yeah,
Little.
so the Wendigo is it's assumed that the Wendigo is what's possessing everything to come back and be these, kind of cannibals and wanting more bodies to get buried. So that is the evil spirit that is causing this.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, and it was like weird, like an interesting. Okay, I think Stephen King just like must have read a book on Native Americans. And was like, oh wow,
I think so.
cool. He went to a museum. And was like, oh
Yeah,
sick.
exactly. I'm gonna use this. So curious what his thoughts are in, almost 40 years after having written or produced this, what his thoughts would be on his appropriation of Native American.
Yeah, I don't know. He is a pretty cool dude
Same.
because J.K. Rowling, at one point tweeted something really nice about Stephen King, and he pretty much told her to fuck off because of everything happening with her.
Fair enough.
So, I do think he's mostly positive, and I'm sure he's written some things that are probably not super cool now reading them, but
Yeah. I mean,
I
that's
would.
the what happens as you
Yeah,
grow and learn and
right.
change.
As a white straight man in the 80s,
Yeah.
you see
He
some
was able
shit and
to
you're
get
like,
away with a few things. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And that's where, like, Travis and I were talking about him, and I was just like, how did he get so popular? Why do you think he got so popular? And Travis was like, I think he was popular because I wrote it down. He was very polarizing at the time. And so I thought that was a good point. I think that, he wasn't the only horror author or things like
Right.
that, but I think he was very much out there with his writing, like willing to go
Mhm.
there, which made him become popular and known for his spookiness. I don't like it. I
Yeah.
don't agree with.
Yeah, no, it's true though. A lot of his early books, they are really just kind of crazy. I mean, you think of it. It's about an alien clown thing and Carrie, Pet Sematary, Cujo,
Yeah,
a dog that's a killing dog.
yeah,
There's just so many books and movies where it's just like, how'd you think of this? But that's part of it. It's like it's such a unique, interesting idea, and it's like, oh, cool. I'm gonna check that out. Um, there were I couldn't get an exact number between 7 to 9 cats that were used for church
no
because
way,
just trying to train one was too difficult. So they
no
had
kidding,
certain cats that were good for jumping and snarling and cuddling. And no, yeah,
cuddling.
no cats were harmed in the filming.
Good, not
Brett
be.
was watching this with me, and he's like, "How did they film that scene?" Because the scene that you brought up where Lewis killed Church, because I was like, "That looks like a real cat," and it was. So basically, what they did was they had the needle obviously was fake, so he pressed into the cat. He wasn't pressing a real needle, but they actually did have the cat like put under to kind of pass out. And so it was done by a vet, and there was someone from like Humane Society there to make sure it was cool. So the cat like laying there that looked like a real cat, it was a real cat. They were just like passed out in the scene. So that's how they did the scene. The cat was totally fine. But yeah, that was like crazy. So
Oh my god.
pretty wild that they did that. So the child actor for Gage, his name is Miko Hughes, and he was about 3 years old, almost 3 years old in his role. And the director was really impressed with his acting because at the time they usually had twin actors to help with filming. So Ellie was a twin actor. There were two girls playing Ellie, but Gage was just one. She was really impressed with him. And any scene that was horrifying, obviously he was not like actually there. And they used a dummy for more intense action scenes. And there's some scenes where you can tell he's like not real. And so they did utilize a dummy for that. But yeah, I actually saw him at a con as an
Did you?
adult. Yeah. And I was like, you were the reason for my nightmares for
Oh,
a very long time.
Cool. Aw,
But
he
he was
was
in like
really
a few.
cute too. He was a
He
cute little
was.
kid.
He was very cute. And he was like in a few random movies and stuff as a kid. So the last thing is something that the director said, because how you brought up that you're surprised a woman directed this. So she said that the thing that drew her to horror was the opportunity to make your own rules as a filmmaker. So she says with horror, you can create a world that exists with its own set of rules, and you only have to adhere to those rules. And she said that she thought that Pet Sematary did a great job of establishing that and following its own rules. And I think that's a really interesting way to look at horror, because it is a genre where you can just like kind of do whatever fuck you want, and it's fine. So that is something that drew her to horror and this movie specifically.
Yeah,
So.
I just find it interesting. And maybe this is, it probably is a little stereotypical of me, but animal death and child death are my two biggest, like, they're just rough. They're really rough to handle. And especially as someone who is, at that time in her life when the baby hormones really
Yeah.
love to go off, seeing a toddler get hit by a truck.
I wouldn't say it's just a woman thing. Like, Brett is very sensitive to child death and animal death, like really, really sensitive to it. So I don't think it's a gender thing.
I think it's just based on, like, if that person is dead inside or
Yeah, girl, there are some movies I've seen directed by women. I'm like, whoa. So there's
Okay.
no
All
there.
right.
It
All
doesn't
right.
matter with horror. It doesn't matter. People are crazy.
You
People.
horror fans are something different, built different. I
Yep.
don't I don't
There's really intense female writers of these horror books and movies. So there's
hey.
transcends gender.
Yeah. It was tough.
That is,
Okay.
I
That's
think,
your
everything I
facts.
have.
Okay. So my survival chance, I wrote that I think my survival would be a 7. So I'm leaning towards higher because in this scenario, I'm the doctor, I'm Lewis, and I'm performing these things. The most I could see myself doing would be, like I said earlier, I in 2025 would not bury a cat in a native burial ground. Let's just say it's 89 and I'm ignorant. Okay, I do that and the cat comes back and it's different and I can see clearly it's different. And then I get those signs, like Judd tells me about this story and all that other stuff. First of all, I'm not letting my kid run around without like some sort of protection from the road. But let's just say the worst thing in the world has happened and the child dies. I'm not doing that.
Yeah. I would have stopped after church. If it came back, I would have been like, that cat was dead as fuck. And I don't know what type of weird magical thing happened, but that's enough for me. I'm done.
It would really scare me. I'd be really worried about my karmic balance. I know that I have a deep respect for the cycle of life. And I would be like, that's not supposed to be what happens. I don't agree with anyone dying by being hit by a truck. I don't think it's fair. I don't think they should
Hmm.
experience that, but I'm not about to play God and bring someone back to life after they've been dead. Not great.
Yeah.
I think that I don't think I would be a functioning human being at that point. If my toddler got hit by, like, even if my cat got hit by a truck, I would be a mess. If my toddler got hit by a truck, I can't imagine I would ever get out of bed again. So
Right.
I don't
Yeah.
think I would have the strength to dig them back up again in general.
Yeah. I think that's fair. I think I forget in the book, but in the remake, Church is a little bit more sneaky. They kind of So there's a big difference in the remake, and I'm gonna say it now. It was in the trailer, so if you get spoiled, I'm so sorry. It's not Gage who dies, it's Ellie. So
Okay.
they swap. So in the movie, the cat kind of draws her into the road. And
That's interesting.
so, and also in
That
this
is
movie,
a little better.
yeah, I thought it was an interesting change, and a lot of people were upset about it. And I was like, you know what? Like, I think it's fine because she's older. She could do a little bit more. The remake, I don't know. There was something like missing about it. I don't know. I feel like the 80s has a lot of issues, but the remake felt empty. I don't know what it
Yeah.
was missing, but it had all the ingredients. And I'm like, oh, it's like cool. I like the change. The cat was really creepy, but I don't know. It just
Yeah.
didn't.
Well, I think that there's an interesting layer there with the cat being evil and wanting to kind of get more like, maybe
Yeah.
he's trying to get her to be buried there or whatever. I think that adds a layer of interest, whereas I really hate the accidental aspect of Gage's death because it makes it more sad, I guess. It's
No, it does.
more
It
painful.
does.
And the movie does play well into the idea of grief and how that impacts somebody. I think they could have taken it farther and leaned more into the grief. I feel like the dad seeing Gage and it would go back and forth between him holding Gage as a baby to
Mhm.
him seeing Gage that like as this undead baby. And I think it could have been this really deep and powerful moment, but instead it just felt like cut.
I, like, laughed. It was I
Yes.
should have laughed, but, like, I laughed at that scene
It was goofy.
because it was so goofy, and I think a lot of the movie is goofy. Like, I don't think the scariness holds up as much
No.
because of the goofiness, but yeah, the movie, it does deal a lot with grief and death and what it
Mhm.
means, and the book, Judd's wife is alive in the book, and she ends up dying. I forget how she dies, but Judd doesn't bury her or nothing. But it just shows you like him grieving and, accepting that she's dead. And it's just like a parallel to the Creeds not being able to accept that Gage has died and all this. So it is like that parallel and it's done really well in the book. So I do recommend reading the book if, I know I'm not a Stephen King person, but it was good, I think. So
I won't, but if any
yeah,
listeners
no,
want to,
horror
yeah.
readers, I recommend reading Pet Sematary.
Yeah, it was
And this movie is pretty close to the book. Like, Stephen King did, I think he did the screenplay or he was very heavily involved with it. So the movie does a good job of adapting most of the book as much as it could. But, there's obviously a lot more in the book.
would I recommend to a non-horror fan? No. No, absolutely not. I would never do I would barely recommend it to a horror fan, I'll be honest with you. I do think it was the scariest part was the Zelda character. I think that was the spookiest bit because she looked real rough. I don't think overall it was very scary, but that's also, I think, more than anything, it was tragic. It was really tragic.
Yeah, I don't think it holds up well. When I watched when I was younger, I was like, oh, this is so scary. And
Yeah.
watching it now, I'm just like,
I was
well,
yeah. I was talking to another horror lover in my life, and they also said they adored it as a child, which is just you horror people watching scary movies as kids is alarming. God, what happened to like cute Disney movies,
I
dude?
watched all the Disney movies and Stephen King. Disney and Stephen King were like
No, that is
repeat
those
and
don't
Goosebumps.
they don't fit together. Stephen
No,
King and Disney.
it's unique. It's different. It's that it's that thrill. You get a certain thrill. It's like a drug.
So, what would you rate it?
I don't know. I keep thinking about it. I kind of want to give it like a 3.2. Um because like I like the story, but I think the dialogue is like really bad. I think there's creepy things about it. I think the opening scene is real creepy. I hated that. Um Zelda's creepy, but it's also like some of it was kind of goofy. Gage, the idea of that is creepy, but watching it is not creepy.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like, if a horror fan has not seen it, I'd say go watch it. But I wouldn't say it's like, like, I don't know. For me, I think Misery is probably the best Stephen King adaptation. I think it's a good movie. I wouldn't say it's great, but I guess it's better than some other Stephen King adaptations. I've seen some real stinkers. So
Yeah. You think Misery is better than Carrie?
yes. Yeah. I think Misery is a better story. I think
What would you
Misery
rate
is
Misery? I don't know if you
I would probably give Misery like a 4.7 or something. Yeah, I think it's just a very good movie. But I think a lot of that too comes from the acting performances.
yeah, there was a lot of good acting. So, I was having such a hard time with the rating, and I was talking to Travis, and I was just like he's like, "Well, are you rating it badly because it's bad? Or are you rating it badly because it was, it was
Yeah.
scary?" And this is where I went down this whole spiral, and I was texting Demi earlier about, like, my reviews and second guessing all my reviews. And I think I rated it low because it's actually bad. Also because enjoyment level, everything that happened was beyond comprehension, and I struggled a lot with some of the randomness of, like, the whole Missy character didn't make sense. They should have just
Yeah.
cut her out of the movie
Mhm.
because they could have found some other way to trigger the mom's stresses or anxieties, you know? I didn't think that there was a necessity to that. I thought it was kind of just goofy the way she just kept being like, my stomach hurts." And then she was like, no, I don't want to go to the doctor." And then she was like, "I'm killing myself because I have stomach cancer." What?
Yeah, I don't know. It was a weird choice. I think at that point they should have just kept Judd's wife and just
Yeah.
had her
Yes.
pass
Had
away.
her die and have that trigger it. Like that would have been better, more seamless. But anyway, that aside, I was really, really like, okay, am I being overly dramatic? So what I ended up giving it was I couldn't give it higher than Carrie, but I wasn't gonna be so depraved as to give it lower. So I gave it
Okay.
0.25.
Okay.
I did genuinely at one point, I was like, do I give it point 0.1? And then I was like, no, you're being dramatic. I just didn't, I had no fun.
That's fair.
And it was a tough one, but I think that the disbelief in the storylines, the challenge
Mhm.
with the the actual events, and the overall fact that it wasn't really scary. I did feel I might have felt more scared at this one than I did at Carrie. I actually would say I felt more scared at this one than I did Carrie. So if we're gonna boost it because of that, the most I could give it would be a point 0.5.
It's got creepiness, but
Yeah.
like I said, it doesn't scare like before. And it's funny because I was watching with Brett, and Brett was like, "I don't like this movie. This movie sucks." And I
Yes.
was like, "That's fair. That's
Yeah.
fair. It doesn't hold up. I'll be
No.
honest." And then we watched the remake, and Brett was like, "I like the original much better than
Oh
the remake."
shit.
Yeah, and watching the remake, I was like, "Ooh," it made it harder for me to review this. I'm like, "No, I still have to give it like lower, but it is better than the remake." Um, so yeah,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe it's got a little bit campiness to it. It just had
Yeah.
something that the remake just
Yeah.
didn't have.
Okay. I
Either
can
way,
understand. Camp is great. I don't feel like it was intentionally campy with this one. So for me, I can't lean into it. I just like I said,
some yeah,
pets and kids, it's tough.
it's tough, and I think some horror books need to just stay books. This is one that I think, yeah, I, enjoyed the movie for what it was, but it's the book, it's just better. This is one, just keep it the book. Not all horror movies,
Yeah.
books need to be movies because it's
Right.
hard to adapt that. Some of
Yeah.
it's really difficult to adapt, the creepiness you're reading and then you watch it and it's like, oh, that's not that creepy.
Yeah. Yeah. I can get that for sure.
So,
So
but
yeah,
yeah,
so that's how I felt. I'm
hey,
sorry.
no, that's totally fine. It's another classic out of the way. Like I said, it didn't hold up well. So I was like, Megan's not going to rate this one.
I was I was like, and the funny thing is for me, like, I feel like I don't know, I might have liked something that's more traditionally scary if it wasn't quite as devastating
Yeah,
as the everything that happened, I was just like, "Why?"
it is. It's really sad. It's just like
Yeah.
constantly negative, and
Yes.
it's just like
You should have
God.
seen
And
Travis's face as I explained to him what happened. His eyebrows were, like, at the back of his head. He just couldn't. I was like, yeah, Travis. And then the little boy got hit by a truck and he was like, what? Then, yeah, I had to watch his shoe fly through the air and Travis just like jaw dropped. I wish he had watched it with me. It might
He should
have
have.
made it more enjoyable.
Yeah, he should have. He should have
Yeah.
watched it with you.
Get educated.
Yeah, another Stephen King out of the way. Still
Yeah.
got a few more
No,
to
that's
go.
okay. We don't have to. It's
Got a few
fine.
more to go.
I can't remember what I rated Misery, but I know that the acting was good and I thought the
I
overall
think you rated
storyline
it
was decent. I don't think I
pretty
rated it bad.
decently.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
there's hope. There's hope
Maybe.
for Stephen. I will say a lot of his movies are not done well. I think
Do you think maybe he's just not a good writer?
so my big negative with him is like the way he over details everything and the way he describes women. He's always bringing up their breasts.
Mm,
I'm like, stop doing that.
yeah, not a big fan.
So those are my big negatives. I think his stories are good, but I think his stories, like you said, are so like out there and unique. I think they're hard to adapt into movies because it just feels cheesy and like weird. And a lot of his movies were adapted in like the 80s and they just don't.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. In his height, like a height of when he was getting popular, I'm sure there was like a.
Yeah, there's a ton. They did Cujo, Christine, which is about an evil car.
Dude, what?
Why not?
That makes sense. That makes sense. That's what I would make a movie about.
Yeah, so it's just like, I don't know. Books, sure, it's silly, but as a movie, like, I don't know.
Not
Anyway.
gonna do it. Yeah. Are you ready?
Yes.
So Demi obviously already knows because she picked the common thread for this week. And I think I might know it, but I'm also a little bit like not positive.
Okay.
But the movie that Demi's gonna watch is all caps, My Old Ass, which I watched with my mom, my dad, and my sister a couple weeks ago. And
Okay.
I went into it thinking it was gonna be one thing, and it ended up being something else completely. So it was very interesting. And I didn't realize it was going to be a love story in a lot of ways. So I'm curious your thoughts. I'm curious what you're gonna think. I think again, it's another movie that I'm giving you where the love story is less of the main thread and there's a little bit
Okay.
more to it because it's a little bit of a coming of age. And I'm not a big fan of coming of age movies because I don't know, worst time of your life, high school sucks. So
But no, coming of age movies are always done so much better.
they
I love
are
coming
done
of age
really well.
stories.
They are done really well. And this one I think is done really well. I didn't think it was going to be as high quality as it was. It turned out it was good. It was good. I really enjoyed this movie. So, on a mushroom trip, Elliot is with her friends. She is just graduating high school. She's about to enter into college. She's in this little rural town and she decides one night to celebrate with her two friends. They take mushrooms. They both have really fun trips and she ends up coming face to face with her 39-year-old self who gives her some advice including stay away from a boy named Chad. And not surprising. We hear the name Chad, we're like he's going to be a character and there is a very interesting character who shows up in the movie named Chad, and it kind of that carries through, and we learn a little bit about that. And I don't want to give anything else away, so I'm gonna call it there. She trips, she sees her old self. There's something about a guy named Chad.
All right. Cool.
Yeah.
I'm excited. It's got Aubrey, right?
Yeah, it's got Aubrey Plaza
All
in it. It's never mind. I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna say it. We'll say it next week. I'll say it next week.
Okay. All right. All right. Cool. I'm excited to watch it. Well, this is How Do You Watch This? And thank you for listening. You can find us on Instagram at How Do You Watch This and TikTok at How Do You Watch, or you can email us at howdoyouwatchthis@gmail.com. If you'd like the show, you can support us by giving us a review or recommending to a friend. Thank you.